Okay, Alyssa, thanks. The big day is finally here. Several big political seats at stake this morning across the country and in Kentucky. The presidential race, of course, U.S. Senate seats, and a Kentucky Senate seat, among others. A lot of eyes are on Kentucky. And to make sure you're ready before heading to the polls this morning, we have Cody and Erica in election headquarters. Good morning, guys. How are we doing out there?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chilly.
Yeah. Alyssa was just talking about coffee, and I was like, that's what I forgot.
That would warm us up.
We'll see what we can do about that. We'll get some out to you.
Thanks for holding it down there in the studio, Doug.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate you all out there.
Appreciate it. Hey, you notice people are actually moving behind us. That's because the polls are now officially open again. We're here live just outside the Beaumont Branch Library in Lexington. There's a line, guys. We've been talking about this sort of all morning here, but it stretches. I know you guys can't really see, but there's a good, I'd say, 25, 30 people that are already here.
It goes down the building already. Now, of course, they're going to look a bit longer because everybody's 6 feet apart, but they are long lines. We didn't have enough people vote early in Lexington, at least. So if you're in Lexington, you can expect those to be kind of longer lines in this area.
Of course, it's election day, a big day. A lot of folks decided to wait for many different reasons to come out on election day to vote. We do want to remind you that there are 8 different polling locations open here in Lexington. Of course, we've got the Beaumont Branch. We've got 2 other libraries, the Northside Branch and the Tates Creek, as well as Dunbar Center, the Lexington Senior Center, BCTC's campus, and then Wellington and Garrett Morgan Elementary Schools as well.
Yeah, and if you have the capability to go to some of those last ones that Erica just mentioned, do so, because the Beaumont Branch and the Tates Creek Branch are going to be absolutely jam-packed. I mean, they're going to be the busiest. That's what County Clerk Don Blevins has been saying, and so if you have the ability to go to some of those, do that.
Yes.
You can also still drop off those ballots.
Yeah, that's right.
The absentee ballots are being able to drop off today. You have to have those postmarked by 6 p.m. tonight and drop them in those ballot drop boxes. Don't put them in the mail because they're not going to get where they need to go if you mail them out.
Yeah, allow yourself some extra time if you are voting today in person. We just want to give you a quick number. Secretary of State Michael Adams has mentioned they don't know for sure, but their guesstimate right now, at least on Twitter when he was having a live Q&A last night with reporters and the voters, he was saying some 700,000 people are expected to vote today in person across the state. So keep that in mind. Of course, that is just an estimate. He said it very well could be much higher.
Also, keep in mind, if you are coming to the polls, things you need to have, your ID, photo ID, unless you know an election worker who can obviously identify you. Also, make sure you have your mask, because they're not going to let you in to vote unless you have your mask, and it would be a bummer to have to turn around and go back and get that. So,
for sure. We got a lot of local races we were following, but first we'll start you off on the presidential race. Camilla Bernal is following the latest.
First ballot.
The first ballots on Election Day have been cast. At the strike of midnight, polls opened, then closed in 2 small New Hampshire towns.
That's it.
The final day of the 2020 presidential campaign is now over.
We're going to have another beautiful victory tomorrow.
I have a feeling we're coming together for a big win tomorrow.
Both candidates focusing heavily on Pennsylvania Monday,
We win Pennsylvania, we win the whole deal.
a traditionally blue state that Trump turned red in 2016. It could be the make it or break it state for either campaign.
Pennsylvania, you're going to make a decision about who's going to be the next president of the United States.
And it's all hands on deck with surrogates stopping in multiple states. Former President Barack Obama hitting the trail on behalf of his former vice president.
After 4 years of failure and division, we have the power to change America.
And First Lady Melania Trump giving her 4th and final solo campaign speech.
After all, you deserve a president with proven results, not a career politician with empty words and broken promises.
In Wilmington, Delaware, I'm Camila Bernal.
Of course, that's on the national level. Several races here in Kentucky we're following. Perhaps one of the biggest just in Kentucky, and I think that's on the national level too, is that race for U.S. Senate seat here.
yeah, incumbent Senator Mitch McConnell seeking his 7th term. That would be beating his own record of 6 terms, of course. And Democratic rising star Amy McGrath trying to get in there and change things up a little bit from her point of view. It was interesting chatting with both of them because they agreed on some things. They both agreed we need some economic help, of course, with the pandemic. They don't necessarily agree on how that happens, but still, nonetheless, they agree on one aspect of that. We talked to them a lot about a lot of things. Senator McConnell talking about his CARES Act and the work that he did in that, providing funding early in the pandemic. Amy McGrath countering and saying, that's not enough, we need more right now. My favorite question personally was what their favorite dessert was.
I think mine too, yeah.
Yeah, and of course Senator McConnell saying pound cake. Amy McGrath coming back and saying her mother's turtle pecan cookies. She said she doesn't make them because she would eat too many of them, and so they try to keep them out of the house. But it was just fun kind of seeing that side of them a little bit, especially when things have been so heated in this race, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at this point in the game, a lot of folks know the policies. They know the politics. They know what their platforms are. So it's fun to hear something that maybe you don't know that's on a more personal level. The two were actually out campaigning yesterday. You were probably aware of this, but, you know, we had Mitch McConnell was out in Versailles in Woodford County. He was out with several other candidates. And then Amy McGrath, she was out with Josh Hicks yesterday. This was in Lexington.
Yeah, of course, Josh Hicks battling with incumbent Andy Barr for that District 6 congressional seat here in Kentucky. Another big race that you featured.
Yeah, this is a big one. Also very, very heated here. You have four-term incumbent now, Representative Andy Barr, who's looking for that fifth term in office, against Josh Hicks, the Democrat, in this particular race. I sat down with them in studio not too long ago just to go over some of their major platforms. Again, very, very heated race. We asked them what they thought about the race so far. Take a listen.
Well, look, I think it's legitimate to point out the differences between the candidates. Elections are about choices, but I'm also proud of the fact that during the course of this campaign, we've spent well over $1 million in touting our accomplishments as the representative of this district.
When that kind of money starts being thrown around, your voice can get drowned out. And the on-the-ground problems that you have can be ignored in some rush to satisfy whoever it was that pumped that much money into your race.
Very interesting, but also sort of similar when you compare it to the U.S. Senate race. You've got someone that's been in office for several years now, several different terms, versus someone who's sort of new to the game. But Andy Barr spent a lot of that interview talking not only about the pandemic, but his future plans should he get reelected to office. One of the big platforms he's been campaigning for is getting that boost, that stimulus boost to Kentuckians. He also mentioned implementing that China task force, what he calls a way to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable. Those are his words there. Hicks, meanwhile, focusing on a change in leadership, touting himself simply as a voice for the people.
Now listen, we focused a lot on those two races and of course the race for president, but we've got some other things on the ballot here across Kentucky that are a pretty big deal. We've got the mayor vote in Frankfort. We've got a vote for mayor in Sanford as well, so those are two races people in those areas are going to be watching. And we have two constitutional amendments on the ballot as well that we've talked about a little bit over the years and over the last few months. But the big one, Marcy's Law, it got shot down in 2018 because the wording was, quote, too vague at the time. So they came back with some new wording, put it back on the ballot this time around. Keep in mind, it actually was passed by the people in 2018 and then shot down by the Kentucky Supreme Court because of the wording. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. We've also got another one on the ballot that talks about judge term limits. And we've got all that information on our website, WTVQ.com, along with those full interviews with Andy Barr and Hicks and the full preview package.
Yeah, again, we just want to tell you Stephen Voss is going to be joining us a little bit later this morning. He's actually walking around the building here. He's been seeing how many people are in line. We're thinking about 100 people now just wrapped around the building.
And he's going to have a lot of good stuff to say. He's way smarter than us about this stuff, so we're going to chat with him.
We'll be right back.
All right, it looks like we got